Okay. Hi, my name's Debbie, and yes, I do know all of you. And nervous? Yeah, quite a bit. However, being in a room of people that I met in the windows, most of you in the windows of Zoom, and some I actually have met in person, and hopefully will again maybe in October. But this is my story. Hi, my name's Debbie, and I'm that addict. My clean date is 2/15/16. Um, it took me 40 years to get those 10 years. I start saying that now because it's true. So I came up in the early 60s. I was born in 1961. I was an only child. I guess I had multiple stepfathers and a father I never met. I'm going to kind of breeze through that a little bit, but it is a huge part of how and who I became along the way. Um, my mom passed away in 1967, and those of you from Chicago, she impacted on Lakeshore Drive in that storm on the S code, and she had third-degree burns, and she passed away. Now, I had been left alone, so I went downstairs, and they took me to my grandmother's, and a policeman met me down there, and there's a lot of blank spaces there. Fast forward to her wake, and then I was with a stepfather, and suddenly I was with my Aunt Carol, all these things. I was just, a troubled kid, you know, a young kid. I was 6 at the time. I have no brothers, no sisters. My family is minimal, and my friends have become my family. I do have family in Chicago, and I'm very close with other family members because of my life all along the way. And mind you, I'm going to be 65 in 2 weeks. All that baggage and chaos, I was never really forgiven for from many people that are still alive and live in Chicago, but don't want anything to do with this addict of recovery because they knew me for so many decades being another way. That's their choice. So my grandparents ended up raising me. My grandmother was very loving, but very strict and very brutal on an era and time where beatings were normal. Today, they would be phoned in and, you'd end up in the system. I didn't end up in the system, but I ended up being a child of thievery. I would steal from my family's wallets. I would do things. I would listen to the vents and listen to the parties that went on downstairs. I grew up in my grandfather was a Democratic precinct captain for 50 years. Um, and, he was gruff. He never laid a hand on me. My grandmother did all that. Um, but I wasn't exactly easy either. And I don't think they knew what to do. So they did the best they could. I started stealing real early on. Cigarettes, I didn't smoke then, but I was trying to impress other people. I was stealing anything and everything, even money from my family's wallets. And, they would tell people when they would come over not to keep their purses or their coats on the bed with money in them because I would take it. But I knew that and I would hear that. So I don't know. I used to think I was a bad seed. I used to think that there was something really wrong with me and I was kind of like evil. I had an aunt pass away of cancer. I remember being in the hospital and she was so gone back then in those days. She was yellow and jaundice and she would call me the devil. Yeah. All this stuff kind of messes with your head along the way. But I believe that my disease is inherited via my true grandfather, who was an alcoholic and beat my grandmother. My grandmother remarried the grandfather that I know. And, I did okay in school, but I was picked on. I was spit on. I was chased because I was different. I didn't have parents. I didn't have siblings. You know, just like it is today, it was then. It's just you didn't hear about it as much in the same respect or the same way. Um, it's kind of a sad time, but you don't know what you don't know. I grew up sort of in Logan Square, but more Fullerton and Cicero area, always wanting to fit in. So, and always wanted to hang out with the bad people, the people that picked on me. Fast forward to high school, my dogs are going to bark. Fast forward to high school, and oh, they didn't bark. I had a package delivered. Usually it's hectic. Fast forward to high school, I got into weed. I didn't really do anything back in the day until freshman year. And let me tell you, the first time I got high, I got sick as a dog. I was in high school, in the bathroom, on the floor, in the corner. And somehow I managed to do it again. And I can't say that I liked it, to be perfectly honest. I didn't drink much. I had my first drunk. I stole a bottle of Johnny Walker Red from my grandfather's bar down in the basement. Probably drank a quarter of it, and the world was upside down. I don't know who I was with, how I got home, what I did with the bottle, but liquor was never my thing. I think I did myself in right there. Um, High school was okay. I OD'd in sophomore year. Um, they had to take me off the school premises, and my grades were good. I'm going to, but I OD'd, and I kind of got clean then. I didn't know any better. I was doing Placidils and let's see, LSD, Placidils, Quaaludes, all downer drugs, which is not my drug of choice by any means. Um, I got a job early. I was taught morals and values and all the things that we think, would be a great upbringing. I did okay in school. I got married early, March 1st, 1980. Divorced like 2 years later. Oh, to a guy, by the way. For those that, you know, uh, don't know, that, I have a wife today of 10 years. We've been together for 16 coming up. And, that says a lot too. I decided I had office jobs. I worked for RCA. I worked for a place called Action Glass. I was in Chicago. RCA was where I met a couple of the guys I was with. I moved to Oklahoma. I'm going to fast forward this. Moved to Oklahoma. I was doing cocaine, but I was still just smoking weed, drinking minimally. I didn't get into, hmm, a big turning point was when I met somebody in Oklahoma, happened to be the boyfriend I was with in Oklahoma's sister, who was gay. And she kind of showed me something I didn't know anything about. And, I ended up coming back to Chicago with this person. And this person took off because, of course, all my straight friends weren't very nice. People just aren't real nice, are they? They still aren't. So I started doing cocaine with friends, started going to clubs. And I was doing there's big blanks there in my story about what I did or didn't do. So ultimately, I did 20 years of powder cocaine, all in restaurant work. I moved to Arizona in '98. I met methamphetamine for the first time, and it took me down quicker and faster than anything else. I turned around and then let's see, I got in so much trouble then. I ended up on probation. I tried to break into a bank with the oxygen in it. Anyways, with a regular torch instead of an oxygen settling torch, I ended up in jail. They let me go. I ended up getting into some more trouble. I ended up having major drugs on me and a gun. And I ended up going to prison from 2003 to '06 and multiple stints after that. I've had clean time. Um, my first introduction to a meeting was in 1983 through working at Red Lobster. So, that was my first. my first knowledge of any of that. Meth had broke me. I could no longer do powder cocaine. I haven't touched it since 2002. But meth and crack did. I became a crack addict. And that took me down faster than anything ever did. I do 2 rehab stints in Chicago because I had nowhere else to go. This is after I got out of prison. Had a decent bar job as a bartender. Everything is a loss because of drugs. There is no, I never said I had this wonderful time because I always did more than everybody else. I feel like I've skipped so many things because I want to get to the part where every time I wanted to get clean, I couldn't because I was never done. I would always go back to something, the people, the places, the things. I would definitely, I always wanted to be the loner, stand on my own 2 feet. I read something today about powerlessness, and I got to say that if it wasn't for the NA program and all the things that go with, well, first of all, it didn't start with NA. It started with the other program for many, many, many years. I would get a year, I would get 15 months. I never stopped stealing. I mean, I had times in there where I was making good money and didn't bother. I mean, it just kind of goes away when you have everything you need or think you need, but the drugs never did. Um, and for the fact that I have people that have known me here in Arizona who have never seen here in Prescott Valley, who have never seen me use, is a blessing in its own right. My first NA meeting or involvement with NA came from a lady who was a cross hitter with the program. I have 3 minutes, 4 minutes. She was Jenny. She's passed now, but she introduced me, said, "This is where I belong." And she was right. Um, I skipped a whole lot of things because I'm going to be 65. And when you've used for 55 of those years, or what, I take it back, 45 of those years, give or take, there's so much crap, multiple relationships. And, I've also had longevity in a relationship and in a relationship that's had trials and tributes. She's in the other program, I'm in this, which is part of the reason I think we have some success. But what I want to point out is my passion right now in life is that it's not only alcohol, drugs, the disease of addiction is a disease. And what keeps going through my mind now is it's food, it's porn, it's, I'm just going to say it's gambling. And it can be it can be very destructive because along with that, if you don't tell who you know that you're doing some of these other things, there goes your trust. And I struggled with that in my relationship. And it's not porn either. Anyways, I feel that the past 10 years were the blessing of my life that saved my life. That I chose to live this program to the best of my ability. Never a perfect program. I've never been a perfect person, nor do I want to be. Um, I'm still, somebody said, I'm still a knucklehead. And, you know, I love being clean. And I know that just for today, that anybody that's in this room with less time than me is just as clean as I am today, because it's just one day at a time. Um, I've been watching people die. I've been to numerous celebrations of life, and they've affected me in ways that make me passionate about being what we call the no matter what club. We don't pick up no matter what, just a day at a time. Ooh, I got goosebumps because I have to live that way no matter what every day as well. And yeah, I got caught up in my early life because most people had never heard anything about all that. And that's a big thing of who I became. And I'm going to close with this. who I was as a child and what I went through as a teenager and who I became as an adult was on me. You know, the once I was an adult, all my actions from that point forward wasn't their fault. It was mine. I stand accountable and I take accountability for my actions along the way, and I paid a price very dearly for that. And I'm lucky to be alive today. This meeting is special to me because people that are in this room were in this room at a time where I needed to be in Zoom meetings because there were none. I'm in a smaller community, and the people I met here and the passion we had here was everything. We looked forward to our meetings, even though they were once a week. We were still getting familiar with where they were. Now they're everywhere. Now you can get them 7 days a week. I'm here because I was asked to speak. It's my third time, I think, ever. Maybe fourth. And that's it. That's all I got. I did it. Boy, I'm sweating.